I want to kind of take this legal theme that we're on right now and wrap it up with the joy and the effectiveness and the experience and the right thinking of our Democratic ticket, led, of course, by former prosecutor Kamala Harris. There are two clips that I want to share with you before we wrap up this show today. One has just surfaced again from her commencement address to her alma mater, Howard University, back in 2017. She tells this story that is kind of the perspective of someone in justice, also kind of just the perspective of someone who is doing the right thing when nobody is watching. I really love this story. Take a listen.
After my second year of law school, I was a summer intern at the Alameda County DA's office, and there had been this big drug bust. And I was working on a case, and I realized that among those arrested was an innocent bystander. But it was late on a Friday afternoon, and most people had gone home, which meant the case would not get called until Monday. Now, that meant, of course, that this innocent bystander would have been held all weekend. So I then started to look more into the case, and I learned that she also had young children. Now, no innocent person should spend a weekend in jail. And I knew what it would mean if she couldn't get home, including that she could even lose her children. So I sat right there in the courtroom, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And I told the clerk we had to call the case. And I pleaded for the judge to come back. I would not leave until the judge finally gave in. And when that happened, with the swipe of a pen, this woman got to go home to her children. It would be years before I would run a major prosecutor's office, before I would create policies and write legislation that would be adopted on a state and national level. And I didn't realize it at that time, but that Friday afternoon, in that courtroom in Oakland, California, that woman taught me that when you see something in front of you that's wrong, you can just go ahead and do what you know is right. And it will make a difference, even if nobody but just you and she knows it.
I love that lesson. I love it so much. It's at the foundation of what is behind why I'm sitting here in front of you right now. It's the reason why I brought a lawsuit. Maybe not nobody, it's not that nobody was watching when I brought my lawsuit or nobody could see it, but I had every reason in the world to think that the blowback would not be positive in any way. There was no immediate good outcome. It was just because I saw what was wrong in front of me and decided to do what's right. And I knew I had to. I knew I had no choice. I had to. If we all make those decisions individually, the change and the positive uplift and progress we will make for the world collectively would just blow our minds. It starts on an individual basis. And so I so love that story from her. I'm going to wrap up today with this joyful and just, you know, so enjoyable interaction between Governor Walz and Vice President Harris at a cafe in Detroit, Michigan. I want to tee this up with a correction from last week. A lot of you guys corrected me, and thank you. When I gave my intro to Tim Walz's record last week, I misspoke, and I said that he retired from the Guard to be a teacher. I was mistaken. He was serving simultaneously in the Guard and as a teacher, and retired from the Guard when he won that congressional seat that he also retired from teaching to take. So my mistake there, didn't mean to misstate his record. And thank you everybody for correcting me there. But here's one more clip that I really love, both with Governor Walz and Vice President Harris hammering home this concept of treating each other as neighbors, not as strangers. Totally the flip side of this divisive campaign of Trump Vance that wants you to demonize the other, that is only in it for themselves, the complete opposite, totally different visions. Here's this interaction capped off with another great prosecutor story from VP Harris.
Talking about the promise of America, and we say, take care of your neighbor.
In the face of a stranger, when you're looking in the face of a stranger, you should see a neighbor, right?
Yeah. I'm about crying on this when you talk about, look, a girl from Oakland, California, and a guy from out in Nebraska on there. And the number of people I watch just kind of nod and break into a smile. This exploiting the differences, it can't last. I talk about it being halftime in America. We're a touchdown down because a lot of folks, it's easier to tear things down. It's easier to divide than it is to build. But once you start that momentum, once we come out and where we're at right now, people want to be part of something that's winning. They want to be part of something that's good. And they want to be part of something that everybody can be a part of. And I kind of like the idea of being a little bit behind.
Well, I'm looking at Coach Walls right now. I'm looking at Coach Walls.
Did you always know you wanted to be an attorney?
My parents met when they were active in the civil rights movement. I grew up around a bunch of people that were, marching and shouting for justice. And some of the heroes of that movement were the lawyers, Thurgood Marshall, right? They understood how to translate the passion from the streets to the courtrooms of our country. And they believed in the Constitution of the United States and the principles upon which it was founded. And that's where they then, in the courts of America, reminded us of the promise, right? And the ideals of our country, including equality, freedom, right? That's why I went to law school. But the other reason is when I was in high school, my best friend, I learned, was being molested by her stepfather. And when I realized what was happening, I told her, you have to come live with us. I called my mom. I have to tell you, Tim, it was the first time that I realized how not everyone can take their safety for granted.
Yeah.
And what we should all feel as a sense of responsibility to protect people from harm.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided I want to be a prosecutor.
Wow.
And as a prosecutor, I prosecuted homicide cases. I prosecuted a number of different types of cases, but I specialized in child sexual assault cases. And one of the things I did was create a whole unit dedicated to focusing on children who are being abused and to ensure that they have dignity in the process and justice.
Dignity and justice really sums up so much of what this episode is about, what our fight for democracy is about. You look at someone like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, both of them, they're rich lived experiences that they have had, how they have prepared them for this moment, contrasting with this life of crime and self-service and failure to know oneself. That's why Donald Trump is in such mental decline, because he doesn't know himself. And when you don't know yourself, it's bound to drive you insane. I'm so grateful we know ourselves, and we are constantly striving to have better self-knowledge so that we can fulfill that divine destiny that's there for each of us and to make our world a better place.